Hello, I'm Jax Riley, and this is the fourth video in the series that I have on how I create my songs. Write the music and come up with all the instrumental parts for my songs. And using my song that I released, it's been over a month now, called Ain't That Something, which you can also find on this channel. And today I'm going to be going over my favorite thing, the bass. And as you might know if you know me, bass is probably my best instrument other than maybe the piano. I've obviously played the bass a good bit in front of people, but it's also, to me, it's not just natural to me. I always perceive the lower pitches a lot better and can come up with better bass lines than basically anything else I do. So this video is probably going to be more valuable than any of the other videos I have. I'll probably know more about the bass than the other instruments I play compared to people that know about that type of thing. So let's get into it. So one of the biggest things when it comes to playing the bass is playing the root notes of whatever you're playing. So I'd mentioned in my second video, I was talking about chords. If you got like a C chord, a D chord, a G chord, anything like that, when you have like a C chord, you have a C chord is, so when you have a C chord, you have the first note, this third note, and this fifth note. And on the piano, it's because it's 1, 3, 5. And the first note is the root note. So in a C chord, that would be C. That note is a C. So that's kind of the theme of this entire song, because on the piano, the chords will be played, and it'll be, kind of like that, and you just hearing chords like that, but then how do you know what to put under them with the bass line? So the bass line is one of the first things you do. You have, to me, I might make my acoustic guitar part, drum part, and then I do bass, and after that I'll do the main vocals and then put everything else behind it. But when it comes to bass, what I normally do is I have the acoustic guitar on the drum track, and I'll just play through it, and I normally don't even write the bass part until after those things are done. And what I'll do is I'll just play the root notes first. I'll play through the chord progression and just play the roots, and then afterwards I'll start trying to complicate things a little bit more, and you'll see. So with this song, we start off with the C chord, and then D minor 7th chord, and then to an A minor chord. So with all three of those is exactly how it sounds on the bass. It's like, and when it comes to learning bass, you don't necessarily have to do this. I mean, some people play by ear completely, and some people learn just from learning tabs and stuff like that. But the way I learned was pretty much, on a bass guitar, and this is the first stringed instrument lesson we've had here. But there's tons of different tunings, different types of music, but mostly in country music and really most types of music, period, you are in E standard. Now, what that means is that this lowest string, making the lowest sound, first string here, is tuned to a E. So the same thing is, so it's tuned to E. And then this string right here, the second one, is tuned to A. And this third one is tuned to D. And then this low one is also an E. So, you know what I'm saying? So, with that being said, since I know the piano, if I know that if this is an E, then this next one is an F. This next one is F sharp. This is G. So I can kind of translate it to what I think it is. So, knowing that the first chord is a C, and the root note for the C is a C. So here's how you find C. So A would be, if you're holding it open, A sharp, D, and then C. Look at there, C. So, and then D would be up here because C, C sharp, D, and then A would be open just like before. So let's play through the song and you'll hear what I'm talking about. Okay, so what I did there is pretty much, and I did this on purpose to make it that simple to begin with, but it's pretty much just playing the roots. So you have that C chord, boom, and so here is the first example of doing something that strays from the path of just playing root notes. So here, when we're at this A minor chord, we're about to go back into C. So you're about to go here. So I noticed there's this little note right here, just trying to make a little feel right there. It's just something that pops into my head when I'm playing it. So there you go. So then we go, the chord progression still goes to so instead of ending with an A minor chord at the end of that progression, it changes to G, which I've covered before in the earlier videos when I was talking about creating chord and chord structure. But that means we go, and so, you know, you could play it straight up, but I kind of added a little slide there. You know what I'm saying? So, and then that's the end of the intro part, and then it goes into the verse. Now the verse is a little bit different. So the chords is C, then C major 7th, and then D minor 7th. That sounds complicated, but it's actually not that crazy. So we'll listen to this part, and I'll just kind of go with what I was doing. So there we go. Okay, so that is the first verse. The first and second verse is played the same way on bass, of course. But, you know, you have that, well, I'll play it on the piano. But you have it's kind of bouncy, so it's like... And then it goes... So there, with that kind of bounciness I have, I know I'm going just from C. So in that chord, that C major to, or C chord to C major 7th, all it is doing is just dropping the root note down 1. So you go from C so to B. So now that, what I just did, is a major foundation of country bass playing. Now what that's doing is basically is going 1st to 5th. Now the trick on the bass is pretty much that you know, the way the bass is made, it's not the same on the guitar. Well, the same on the guitar except for the higher strings. But you know, here, this is called a D note right here. I'm holding this 2nd string down, and whenever, or really on the bass period, when you're in standard tuning, if you have a note, you can find that same note's higher version, an octave higher, by going 2 strings down and 2 over. So see, those 2 notes are the exact same note, except one's higher. So with that, we're trying to find the 5th. So whenever you hear a typical country bass or country beat, and this bass is playing and it's going, you hear that little sound, and where that comes from is they're just playing basically this. It's 5th. So when I was talking about chords, you have the 1st, 3rd, and 5th note. 1st and 5th are, you know, both sides of that chord. So you're playing within the chord there. So, and where did that octave thing come into it? So when you're playing this D, if you if you want to play that fifth, bounce off of that fifth, you can either go down or you can go up. So see, this note is an A, which is a fifth of the D, and this note is also an A. So sometimes you go, but there I wanted to go down, so it's like, pretty simple. Well, I guess I think it is. I will. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm not that great at explaining stuff. I'm sorry. But so then the second part, the chords change. So what we do is so what happens there is, so now at the end of that phrasing, it's you have to hit an A in some way. So an A is right here. So that's the note we've been playing. So instead of just playing that exact same thing, what I did was, so I'm just kind of another one of those things. It's kind of a songwriting thing. It just kind of pops in your head, and you're like, and so that third verse ends with the G chord as the end of the phrasing. So instead of this is one example of, a lot of times when you're playing the bass, you kind of have to realize you can't just play everything you want to play, because you'll just get in the way of the entire song, and all anybody will ever hear is bass, which sometimes in music that's actually a good thing. But for country music, it's not exactly a good thing. A lot of times it's just like anything, you could deal with a lot less when you're playing the bass. So in that part, it's just kind of giving space to whatever other instruments I want to play at that moment, and just go. And then we go to the pre-chorus, and let's play that. Okay, so this is basically the same thing, except we're going. So at the end of that phrase, going into the chorus, what I do is play an A minor and then a G chord, and I just play straight up root notes on that. I go. There we go. Just realized she was in the shot. But pretty simple. So we go to the chorus, and the chorus is mostly playing root notes too, but you'll see the little trickeration I have. Okay, so a little bit to unpack there. So with the Ain't That Something, I'm playing so many chords at one time, you really can't do a whole lot, because the chord changes kind of happen pretty fast. So it's like, ain't that something, you got 2 kids and a dog and a beautiful home. So with the bass, you really can't do too much there other than just play whatever chords you got. So it's like, ain't that something, you got 2 kids and a dog and a... Sorry. But, so it's C, G. Okay, never mind. So when you're playing that, I don't really do too much in that part. That first part of the chorus, I'm kind of playing just the standard whatever, not doing too much feels. And then you notice when I get to the second part of that Ain't That Something, I do, and when I go back up here to this D, so it's like, ain't that something. Okay, And then, so what that is that's really just the higher version of whatever the first chord was playing, or some of the notes the first part was playing there. So, you know, you had the first part, and it's following the chords. It goes C, ain't that something? Yeah, do kids and that part, and then you go, ain't that something, something? You met the love of your life, and I see why. So here, this note is the same thing as this note. So here we have that same A chord, or A minor chord, or these are just two A's held down. So see right here is G. And some of that was kind of following the rules of playing the root note, and some of that was songwriting as well. In fact, it was one of those instances where I actually thought of it in my head, and then later realized when I started recording it that it actually fit, you know, because sometimes I think of something and it's like I didn't play it on the piano and make sure it actually fit in the key that you were playing, and then it just absolutely clashes when you record it. But this was actually, in my opinion, one of the better sounding little bass fills I had. And then I go, instead of going back to just holding that note, instead of just holding that out note completely, I'd go, and that's the same thing as that pre-chorus there, where we're just bouncing back and forth, except we have a new chord at the end of the chorus, and that is a F major set. Wait, no, it's just an F7. Which is a regular F chord with the 7th added. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? And so for that, all I do is just play an F. So let me skip ahead a little bit, and I'm just straight up scrolling here. So this is going into the solo, or this is going in the second chorus, but okay, so now this is going into the piano solo part of the song, and I'm just playing the same thing that I play in the verses. So it's okay, so this is really the last different thing to talk about in this part of the song, and it's the bridge. Now, the bridge is using no new chords, but it's pretty much just kind of rearranging things based on, because, you know, the bridge is something that breaks up the song a little bit, depending on what genre. So that first chord is a D minor 7th. I keep confusing myself. So, you know, it's... And she smiles and says, what about you? So it's kind of... So, well, just the basic roots is... And she smiles and says, what about you? And that's what it would be in the basic roots, just playing roots, which would be fine too if you just want to do that, didn't want to do anything complicated. But, you know, I do like to make things pretty complicated sometimes. So here, to kind of make transitions in between these chords, which is, you know, something that's okay to do with Within Reason on the basses. You have this D here, and now we're going from D to this F. So here I go. So that was here. And then we go back to that C that we were at already. And now this little fill I do is just kind of, it probably wasn't even necessary at all, but at the moment I was like, that sounds pretty cool. So just a little flare. And then that's pretty much, it does that 3 times, it goes through that progression 3 times, and that's goes back into the last chorus, and it's played the same way. So hopefully you learned something about bass, or if you didn't learn anything about bass, then maybe you at least learned a little bit how I come up with bass. Bass is actually the only instrument that I don't have to use the piano to play. Like, and what I mean by that is when I'm recording, I'll listen to a song, and then I'll think of what part I want to play, like on the electric guitar or steel guitar or mandolin or something like that, and then I'll have to go like play it on the piano like that, and then translate it to whatever instrument I'm playing. But the bass is like the only instrument other than the piano that I don't really have to do that. Like if I know the chord, I'm just like, now I know what it is on here, and I can like hear it in my head. And I'm not really sure why, but I don't know. I guess I've just been playing bass longer than other instruments. But hopefully you learned a little bit about the method to my madness in my process. So thank you for watching.